This is the ALPS Mountaineering Lynx one-person tent, and we'll be testing it for its ease of use, space, comfort, features, and loads more. I bought this tent from Amazon quite a few years ago, so no unboxing in this video, but here's what you get in the box. Here's the carry bag, the tent body, the rainfly, and 2 smaller carry bags. Let's see what you get inside. So we have the 2 poles, 10 stakes, 4 guy lines, and some repair patches. You'll also get a gear loft, and I'll show you that later. Before we start with the ease of setup, please excuse the horrendous condition of my one-person Lynx. It's falling apart, I know, but I'll still do my best to give you everything you need to know about it. As for the setup, it's pretty simple. Here's the gist of it. The 2 orange poles each go across the tent, like this, and there aren't any pole sleeves. Instead, there are these 12 pole clips to be clipped onto the poles, and one last huge pole clip right at the top. After that, the rainfly goes over the tent body with the vestibule zip over the door at the front. The rainfly has buckles for securing it, and then we gotta just stake down the entire tent and guy it out too. That's basically it. Here's a full time lapse of me setting up the entire Lynx on my own, and it usually takes me just 4.5 to about 5 minutes to do so. This isn't the setup video, this is the review video, so if you need better instructions and tips on how to set up this tent, you can check out this other video on my channel. Taking down and packing away this tent is just the opposite of the setup, and it usually takes me about 5.5 to 6 minutes to take down the entire thing, as well as to pack it back into the carry bag. How do I normally do it? Well, I usually just fold the tent body in half, 1, and then 2 times. Because then it gets small enough to fit back into the carry bag, like this. I know it looks like it's gonna be too long, but I'll show you that it fits back just fine. Then I pack up the rest of the tent. As for the rainfly, I usually just keep folding it in half about 5 or 6 times or so, while tucking all the guy lines and buckles in nicely. It fits just nicely onto the tent body, so I squeeze all the air out while folding everything up. Don't forget the gear loft, stakes, and poles as well. And when you're done, you should be able to squeeze it back into the carry bag. Honestly, I thought that the carry bag was a little bit small for my liking. It could have been a bit bigger for an easier pack away. Or this tent could have come with compression straps instead, which would also make the pack away easier. This really old Lynx has these, I don't know what they call it, peek out windows or just windows or something, which are covered in this plastic thing. It's really bad and it just completely falls apart after a few years, like this. The new version of this Lynx doesn't come with these ridiculous windows. This is my much newer 2-person Lynx, and I'm honestly really glad that ALPS Mountaineering got rid of it. So for this review, just ignore these windows. The peak height inside this 1-person Lynx is about 37 inches. I'm not very tall, I'm just 5'3", so I had a few inches of leftover headroom when sitting down. I was also able to use a 1.5-inch thick sea-to-summit pad, no problem at all, also with inches of headroom left over. The peak height is only at the center though, and the walls slope downwards towards the sides of the tent like every other dome tent you might have come across. The length inside this 1-person Lynx is about 88 inches and the width comes in at about 31 inches. It's a pretty nice length, taking about 20% or 17 inches off as some buffer. I think this could fit anyone that's up to 6 feet, maybe even slightly more if you're using a thin enough pad like my 1.5-inch thick sea-to-summit self-inflating pad. I read some reviews where folks up to 6'1" or even 6'2" were able to use this tent, but sadly I couldn't get anyone who's tall enough to test this out for me. As for the width, this can fit a regular pad like my sea-to-summit pad, no problem at all, with some leftover space, and it can even fit wider pads of 25 inches too. This comes down to a base area of about 18.9 square feet. If you're wondering, I've put a liner at the bottom of this tent because the base area is in crap condition as well. Now, with the rainfly over the tent, I highly recommend zipping the vestibule up before staking it down, because this makes it much easier to unzip or zip up the vestibule when you're done. There'll be no snagging, no sagging, no extra fabric, or anything like that. The zipping experience is pretty good with no snags at all, and I found 1 zipper for this vestibule. It says B8 over here. I think it's because this is a number 8 zipper, which is a larger size zipper, but I'm not too familiar with this. The vestibule area is actually pretty big, and the longest width of this vestibule is about 28 inches. This was more than enough space to fit my sneakers and my tripod with a decent amount of leftover room. It's also easy to get in and out of the vestibule whenever you need to. The vestibule also comes with 2 different loops at the bottom, so you can stake down either loop, either the left or the right, whichever you prefer, and this allows you to open either side of the vestibule, like so. Or if it's not raining and you want easier access into your tent, you can unstake the vestibule completely and tie it up with these 2 toggles right here. Once you do so, this will give you access to the single door of this one-person Lynx. The zipping experience is pretty good with hardly any snags, although I did find that I had to hold the vestibule fabric up with one hand while zipping with the other hand if I'm zipping it up outside. Otherwise, the vestibule could get in the way of the zippers. Oh, and there are 2 zippers to this door. I think it's the same number 8 zippers that we saw on the vestibules. When the door is closed, about half of it is covered in mesh. It feels soft and silky. It's definitely micro mesh and not regular mosquito netting, although I did wish that there would be more mesh for more ventilation. So I tend to like to leave the door open for more ventilation, and I could tie the door fabric up with these 2 toggles at the side of the door. When the door is open, it has a longest length of about 36 inches and a longest width coming in at about 27 inches, so honestly not the biggest door I've seen. But I still found it pretty easy to get in and out of the tent through the door. Moving on to storage, this one-person Lynx has 2 pre-attached pockets inside the tent, one on each width of the tent. Each of these pockets measure about 9 by 6 inches. There's actually one more removable pocket inside this tent, and you can call it a gear loft, but this actually doesn't go on the top of the tent like you'd expect. It goes here on the side of the tent, which I thought was really cool. This removable pocket measures about 12 by 6 inches, so a little bigger, and it goes onto the side of the tent because it has these S-hooks, 4 of them to be exact. On top of the 3 pockets, there's also one lantern loop right at the top of the tent for some lighting at night, and if you're wondering, there's no power port or E-port inside this tent. I didn't rain test this one-person Lynx because of these huge-ass broken windows, but I rain tested the 2-person Lynx, which I bought brand new, and you're definitely gonna want to watch that before buying this tent if you're expecting any kind of heavy rain. There are 2 vents in this one-person Lynx, which are right at the top of the tent, and these are accessible only from the outside of the tent. Here's what it looks like from the inside. It's just a whole bunch of mesh, and no way that I could reach the vents from here. Now, the question is, can these vents be left open in the heavy rain? Again, you're gonna want to watch that rain test if you're gonna buy this tent. Now, what about the ventilation from the rainfly design? Well, the rainfly doesn't extend all the way down to the ground, so you get a couple of inches of ventilation from the bottom. But what I like to look for on top of this is whether the rainfly can be pulled away from the tent body at all 4 sides. And unfortunately, this tent can't do that. Notice that at the 2 short widths of this tent, there's no stake loop there for you to guide out. This is not great for rain protection, ventilation, and condensation. The rainfly is right up close to the tent body, at most 2.5 inches away. Not that great for sure. Thankfully, at least there's the vestibule that's pulled away at the front, and the back of the tent can be pulled away as well. I actually use a separate guideline for the back of the tent, and when I guide it out, this gives me a vent of about 12 inches, which is not too bad. As for hot day ventilation, there's some mesh with the rainfly taken off, but honestly not the most that I've seen. The sides and back of the tent are okay. About half of these sides are covered in mesh, but there's still quite a lot of fabric at the front of the tent, which definitely cuts down on cross ventilation for sure. As for quality, the rainfly is made of 75D polyester with a 1500mm coating, and I suspect that the tent body is 75D as well, because here's what it looks like. Definitely looks like 75D and not thicker than that. The flooring is surprisingly 75D poly taffeta, but I guess this is a budget-friendly tent, so that's okay. Otherwise, I usually like at least 150D for the flooring, and this flooring has a 2000mm coating. The mesh is some sort of micro mesh. The poles are 7000 series aluminum poles, and the zippers I think are not branded, not like YKK or anything, but they're number 8 size zippers, and the zipping experience is decent like what I mentioned in the tests before. And also, the stitching around the tent is pretty decent and consistent. This one-person Lynx has a packed size of about 19.5 by 7 by 5 and a bit inches. As for the weight, my one-person Lynx weighed about 4 pounds for everything. For a size comparison, here's what it looks like beside a Coleman 2-person Sundome tent, as well as a 32-ounce Nalgene bottle. For pros, I think the best thing about the ALPS Mountaineering Lynx is the price. It's really very inexpensive. I paid less than $100 for it, and this was the tent that kind of inspired my whole best budget tent under $100 series, which I will try to finish up soon. And it's not just inexpensive, I actually got a very decent quality tent out of it. This tent is at least 75D polyester all around, decent aluminum poles, quality micro mesh, and waterproof coatings of between 1,500 to 2,000 millimeters. In most other budget tents I see, usually the flooring is made of polyethylene, the poles are fiberglass, the holes in the mesh are much bigger, and there's actually not much of a waterproof coating. I also really like that the marketed dimensions of this tent are pretty accurate. In other budget tents, I usually get them a lot smaller than what the brand says I would get. In fact, the base area of my one-person Lynx is actually pretty big. The inner tent has a base area of about 18.9, almost 19 square feet, and the vestibule area comes in at about 8.5 square feet. So, altogether 27.5 square feet, which is very nice for a single person. But the thing with this tent is that it has a very simple 2-pole setup, which gives it a traditional dome shape where the 2 poles just crisscross over each other. This kind of eats into your livable space inside the tent, and that's the first con. On the other hand, some of my other better quality budget tents under $100 actually have 3-pole dome shapes, so you get more livability inside the tent than in this Lynx. I also really like that I got 3 pockets for this one-person tent, which is pretty decent, and the setup is fairly easy. I mean, it's just 2 poles, some pole clips, and the rainfly. You can't really go that wrong with it. As for the other cons, this tent isn't that good in rain. If you don't at least seal the seams first, and like I said, I highly recommend you watch my rain test on the 2-person Lynx before buying this. I also didn't like how I couldn't pull the rainfly away from the widths of this tent. Thankfully, I'm pretty small, so I didn't have any issues with condensation in this tent. Even with the rainfly off, hot day ventilation just isn't that great, and there's not a lot of mesh on this tent, so it's definitely more of a shoulder season use rather than a hot day summer use, you know? Some smaller cons are that the carry bag is a little bit small, so packing this tent back up is a little bit annoying, and it's also a little heavy for backpacking. It is very budget friendly though, so it's not going to shed too much weight for you. But overall, I feel that this ALPS Mountaineering Lynx still does pretty well, especially for its insane price point. There are way more pros to this tent than cons. You definitely get more than what you pay for, and it's still great value for money, especially if you're just car camping in the shoulder season. But if that's not you and you'd like a budget-friendly tent to use in the summer instead, I highly recommend that you watch this video instead, because there's a much better pick for you in there. I'll put it up when it's ready, so do check it out. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.